Up here in the engine compartment, we have the controller, 5 of the pack batteries, and the 12-volt auxiliary battery. Over here on this side is the DC-DC converter down there, and the 12-volt fuse box, and part of the brake system, and one of the vacuum tanks behind the controller. On the other side, we have the heater unit, the vacuum pump, another vacuum tank. Right there is the rectifier for the charging system. And below all this is the motor. Walking around to the rear of the truck, we have the other 15 pack batteries linked up in the rear battery box. And the battery box is insulated to keep the batteries warm in winter conditions. We may actually have to vent this in the summer so they don't get too hot. Down here is the charging plug-in, and these 3 switches go to ballast resistors that control the amount of charging current that's used. This charges on 120 volts, somewhere between 10 and 20 amps usually. And right under here, mounted underneath the bed, is the ballast resistors. Inside the truck we have the control panel. Most of this is OEM equipment for the lights and the blinkers and so forth, but we also have some gauges for RPMs and amperage and pack voltage and whatnot. The 2 voltmeter gauges up top are going to be either mounted permanently or replaced with other gauges that'll be mounted permanently. Underneath the truck, it's a little bit dark down here, but this is the box that handles the ballast resistors. And that big conduit is what the pack wires run to the front. And underneath in the front, this is right under the front bumper, you can see the end of the motor, and on that is the tachometer. Okay, let's take a drive. Now I have to turn my instruments on. Right here is the voltmeter. And this one is the ammeter, and it reads in millivolts right now, not amps, but I'll fix that soon. I take the parking brake off, and I'm going to put it in 2nd gear, because it has plenty of acceleration in 2nd gear. I really don't need to use 1st gear. Actually, the acceleration in reverse is almost too much. It's a little bit hard to control. So now that it's in gear, I turn the main contactor on, which is the key switch, and that noise you hear is the vacuum pump pressurizing the brake system, or depressurizing. It's a little bit annoying right now, so I'll have to fix that at some point. And then once the vacuum pump's kicked off, I just flip the controller on, and I'm ready to go. Alright, we're taking a little drive around the neighborhood, and it rides about as well as you can expect a truck to ride. I do want to look at the suspension in front because it may be bottoming out at some point. It is very quiet. The little whine you hear when it starts sometimes is just the controller frequency shifting down at low speed. So that's normal. It coasts really well, but you really have to apply the throttle up hills because it's so heavy. There's very little friction. It's not like driving a gas car. It will coast and coast and coast almost forever. And since it doesn't have power steering, going around corners is a little bit of exercise, but it's not that bad. watching my tachometer, I'm just over 2,000 RPM, which is about 22 miles an hour. I don't want to go too much faster than that in the neighborhood. That's about 2,500 RPM. Red line is somewhere in between 5,000 and 6,000 RPM, to give you a perspective. And this is all in second gear. One minor design flaw is that I don't have any indicator lights on the inside for my blinkers, so I have to make sure and pay attention a little bit to see when they're on. And since I don't have the body pans in, I'm kind of dodging puddles.
And don't run over old people.
Yeah, and pedestrians. It's not exactly a race car, but, I mean, in second gear it drives perfectly fine. One thing I will have to watch out for is that it has a fairly large stopping distance because of all the extra weight. And we're back. I'm going to back in. As I said before, reverse is just a little bit touchy because it has so much power. I'm not quite used to it yet. There goes the tree. Turn it off, put it in neutral, not necessary, but, and put the parking brake on. Remember to turn off the instrument so the battery doesn't run down. That's all there is to it.